起努力，共同创造台湾辅具暨长照产业的新纪元。
进一步的协助国内的业者在创新研发产出更多、更好、更新的产品。
Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, ladies and our dear guests online, we're about to start today's meeting, Cross-Field Facilitation, Re-Evolution of Smart Healthcare, in 1 minute. So please get ready. Thank you very much.
各位长官、贵宾。
Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, whether you are online or offline, good afternoon. Thank you very much for joining us in this 2021 International Smart Medical Forum, Cross-Field Facilitation, Re-Evolution of Smart Healthcare. As we're confronted by COVID-19, smart healthcare has become a prioritized issue. And indeed, this is a gold mine waiting to be digged, and indeed, cross-field development and collaboration is now our priority. And it's our honor to have representatives from the industry, from the prowess of the industry, and also we have experts from all fields to discuss the latest, the newest possibilities in this industry in smart care. And today, the first session, as we have three, we will focus on tech and healthcare. And before we start today's conference, let us welcome our distinguished guests, and I will read your name. And once you hear your name read, please stand up and say hello to everyone online, offline. So first of all, I would like to introduce Mr. Guann-Jyh, Deputy Director General, Bureau of Foreign Trade, Ministry of Economic Affairs. Hi, welcome. And now I would like to introduce our lecturer, Mr. Brian Chong, Vice President, Wistron Medical Technology Corporation. Welcome. And also we have Mr. Ming-Shiang, Superintendent, National Taiwan University Hospital. And also our CVP and CTO of ASUS, Dr. Tai-Yi Huang. And also we have Mr. Brian Zhu, Senior Business Development Manager, Amazon Web Services Taiwan Limited. And also, I would like to introduce to you our distinguished guests and also the Deputy Superintendent, Vice Superintendent, National Taiwan University Hospital, I-Rue, and also Huang Ted Huang, Senior AVP from ASUS. So thank you very much for joining us today. Indeed, you have brought a lot of honor to our event today. Today, it's a great honor to have Mr. Guann-Jyh, Deputy Director General, Bureau of Foreign Trade, Ministry of Economic Affairs, for opening remarks. Now let's welcome him. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, Vice President from Wistron Medical Technology Corporation, and also Mr. Huang, CVP, CTO from ASUS, and also Mr. Zhu from Amazon Web Services Taiwan Limited. Everyone, good afternoon. Thank you very much for joining today. Thank you for joining us in the first session. That's the 2021 International Smart Medical Forum, Cross-Field Facilitation, Revolution of Smart Healthcare. So this is really a new venue, and yes, even though we are confronted by the pandemic, thanks to the planning and organization of our sponsors and organizers, we can have this online and offline hybrid conference available to everyone. So thank you very much for joining us, and thank you for honoring the preventive methods under the age of COVID-19. And here we're to discuss the future opportunities of the industry. So once again, on behalf of TAITRA and also Bureau of Foreign Trade, thank you very much for joining us. And indeed, in the past 2 years, due to COVID-19, whether in economy or industrial development, we are under a lot of challenges. We've experienced a lot, and especially to exhibitions, conferences, a lot of events were delayed or cancelled. In Taiwan, when it comes to pandemic prevention, maybe it's not the final stage yet, but when it comes to results, yes, in Taiwan, we are doing better than our neighbors, and actually we are doing so much better than average compared to the global situations. And I think we are maybe number one and number two. And of course, that means in Taiwan, not only the government, but also there is cross-field collaboration among industry, between the public and private. And even though it's not the end of the tunnel yet, and we may have to live with COVID-19, it's becoming part of our daily life, but that is an issue for us now. That is something we have to overcome. Just like the sponsors today, even though we want to host these event exhibitions, but with the challenges from COVID-19, we need to change, we need to adopt. So this is what I call progress. This is also the dynamics of the society, and this is what has been driving us to move forward. And I believe today's forum, whether it's for ICT or the medical circle or for the innovation in IT, I think we will have fruitful learnings from everyone. And especially, I would like to thank the Ministry of Economic Affairs and also the our health care authorities. I know that we have dedicated a lot of resources in remote Medicare and also precision Medicare. So today, we are discussing, we will be elaborating, exploring new boundaries of how are we to build this smart care, how are we to lay more solid foundation for smart medical care so that in Taiwan we can have the best development ever. So today, if we can ever have this great model that we can show to the world, especially Taiwan, we rely so much on international trade. And in the past 2 years, we never thought that the growth of foreign trade and economic growth, actually last year and also this year, our forecast is actually we are having really positive picture ahead. This is a result, thanks to everyone's efforts. And of course, it's an impossibility under the pandemic. And of course, we need to maintain this dynamics, this momentum, so that we can overcome future challenges to come. Not only today, but also tomorrow. I hope today's exhibition, also a seminar, I hope this can serve as a great platform where the industry, the academic circles, or the public authority can join together. We can have fruitful discussion, open discussion, so that as a whole, in Taiwan, as a team, we can have a more comprehensive readiness or capabilities to promote smart care from Taiwan to the world. And this is a big team, not only one division. And I hope for different parts in this big team, we can show our capabilities, our momentum, so that together we can contribute more to the economic growth of Taiwan. Thank you very much for joining us again. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Li. Thank you, Deputy Director General, Bureau of Foreign Trade, Minister of Economic Affairs. So now let's take a group photo. First of all, let us welcome Vice President of Wistron Medical Technology Corporation, Mr. Brian Chong, and also Superintendent from National Taiwan University Hospital, Mr. Ming-Shiang, and also Dr. Tai-Yi Huang, CVP and CTO from ASUS. And also Mr. Brian Zhu, Senior Business Development Manager, Amazon Web Services Taiwan Limited. So please join us. Let's welcome them on the stage. Please look ahead at the center. This is really the pivotal time for transformation in medical industry. So we should join hands, work together, and we can overcome the challenges. So now we are sending best blessings for great success to 2021 International Seminar Smart Medical Forum. So now, thank you very much. More pictures. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. So again, I would like to extend my gratitude to our lecturers and our distinguished guests, our speakers for today. So now let's welcome our first speaker, Deputy Director Vice President of Wistron Medical Technology Corporation, Mr. Brian Chong. And Wistron has had impressive experiences, impressive performance in digital medical services. And now let's welcome Mr. Brian Chong for accelerating smart applications with key domain. So now let's welcome Mr. Chong. His topic is accelerating smart applications with key domain technology. Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. I'm very honored to be here with you, and I'm very happy to share with you the successful references in Wistron. And since today, the topic is how to accelerate the implementation of smart Medicare. So today I will talk about the opportunities first, and I will share with you the trends, and then we will share the successful cases with the healthcare industry. So if you look at the mega trends that are affecting the medical industry, here are some highlights. One of the biggest mega trends is the aging population, especially Northeastern Asia, from Japan, Korea to Taiwan, and also most of the European countries were confronted by the aging population. That's one trend. And of course, we're seeing shortage in medical staff and medical professionals. We are needing more healthcare, but actually we are having less and less staff. Thirdly, the cost of the medical services is skyrocketing. It's increasing rapidly. Whether it is the devices, facilities, or the drugs, or the services, or the cost, every cost is rising. And when it comes to the environment, we are seeing pollution and also disruption in the ecosystem. So we are seeing more and more disease outbreaks. Unforeseen diseases are now seen around the world, especially the habitats of the animals were disrupted, destroyed, and also the migration of these animals. Actually, they're entering the human arena. So for the healthcare industry, now we are having 4 Ps. That means prevention, predictive, and personalization, and personal medication. So these are the 4 P that identify, that highlights the future trends, 4 P. And of course, we have solutions to fulfill these needs. For example, mobile medicine, remote medicine, etc. So if you look at the global demographic changes, actually, Japan is the country that has the most severe problem of aging population. And of course, in Taiwan, we are confronted by the same issue. And of course, we can learn from our neighbor.
But at the same time, the aging speed is rapidly increasing in many countries around the world as well. This is faced by many countries. The shortage of medical staff around the world, whether in terms of healthcare or in medicine, in medical doctors, are all increasing. it takes a long time to train doctors, but the shortage is increasing. So this great imbalance in the demand of medical staff, you can see simply in the United States, there's over 400,000 shortage in doctors and 700,000 in shortage in doctors. And in Taiwan, many people feel that being a doctor means a hard life, so a lot of people are unwilling to go into certain, for example, emergency medicine or surgery or a pediatrician or gynecologist. So the bad dietary and life habits lead to chronic diseases, which leads to great expenditure in medicine. We can see that the expenditure in cancer medicine is lower than these chronic diseases. For example, in the United States, 1 in every 2 adults has chronic diseases led by, for example, obesity or drinking or smoking or even using pot. So that leads to a prolonged harm to the body. About 25% of adults in the United States have more than 2 chronic diseases. So that leads to great medical expenditure, which leads to Alzheimer's, which is very serious because it requires a lot of health care. And also, people who can't make a living may be forced to leave their jobs to take care of their family members suffering from Alzheimer's diseases, which will greatly increase in the demand for medical defense expenditures and medical care. In terms of the trends, in the past, we need medical services because we're sick, and then you go to the hospital to see a doctor. But in the future, we would like to turn these into more personalized services, because if you can prevent these diseases, then you don't need so much medical expenses. In the past, it's all about treatment, but now it's more about education and prevention so as to prevent these diseases from occurring in the first place. And in the past, it's more centralized, people going to the hospitals. But in the future, we would like to see them be more decentralized, going into not just hospitals, but doctor's office or other places, for example, remote care centers. And COVID-19 has taught us that at the beginning, because we don't know enough about the disease, it led to great demise in medical staff around the world and also the general population. So people understood that touchless and remote medicine was essential. We should decrease contacts between patients and doctors to protect these doctors. So whether it's the development of sensors or these telemedicine, these include a lot of ICT developments and experiences in technology. So the combination of ICT and medical technology is an obvious trend. Taiwan is fortunate in the fact that our medical staff are some of the best talents in Taiwan. In the past, all high school graduates aspired to become a doctor if they graduated with distinction. So we have very good quality of medical doctors, and also we have very good medical performances. Most importantly, it's not just about the technology, but also because these doctors are really good talents, and also because IT industry plays an important role in Taiwan. So these people are among the top earning of foreign exchanges in Taiwan. Therefore, if we combine these 2 features, it will definitely lead to the next blue sea for Taiwan. But right now we have our obstacles to get through. We can see when we combine ICT with medical, with AI, there are many technology applications that will go into, including microelectronics. For example, the TSMC, they can go up to 2 nano or 3 nanochips. In the past, a lot of these infrastructures or these machines are very large, but now, because of the nanochips, these devices can become smaller and smaller. And also we have the AR, VR, hybrid reality. We also have these IoT and sensors. These applications are being used more and more, and also the application of robotics, whether it's in terms of surgery or healthcare or home care. The robotics are being applied more and more. 5G application will lead to these big data and mass amount of data be transmitted immediately and applied immediately, which will benefit telemedicine. So we can see these are some of the obvious developments in technology, and of course, including the machine learning, the NLP, deep learning, and computer vision and cloud computing. These are all technology that will be applied. When we look at some of the examples of application of applying AI to medtech, we can see it's being more prevalent, including in the medical technology. For example, in drug design and discovery, there are more and more roles being played by AI, because when you are trying to look for a multitude, you're looking for certain molecule in a great mass, you need to accumulate great amount of experiences. AI will greatly shorten this discovery period and quickly narrow down the scope so that you can save a lot of time in your experiments. In the past, it's very, very expensive to design new drugs because it takes a really long time in the experiments, and there's a great probability of failure. But with the application of AI, drug design can become more and more cheaper and quickly, and this is simply in drug discovery. And also the application of robotics and AI in these surgeries. For example, what we're talking about right now is how to do robosurgery, which is telesurgery. The doctors may not necessarily need to be there in the operation room. The doctor can be halfway around the world working on this surgery through telemedicine, which could be a very big advantage to the use of time for these doctors. And also we can see some of the robots have been designed to be able to perform sutures for these small wounds. These can all be greatly applied in the future. So we can see that the development in medtech here is the combination of robots plus AI. Of course, we can see bigger market trends in the future. The biggest market would be the US, and the next would be either China or relevant countries. And also the mixed reality of AR, VR, MR is mostly used in these medical trainings right now and education, whether it's through remote or on-site in classroom and in operation rooms. These are greatly applied to these places. And of course, as mentioned earlier on, applying them to the surgeries is often seen as well. So for example, if we use these optics or other VR applications, and it can also increase the safety of these surgeries, because you can do some optic surgical plannings ahead and simulate the surgery beforehand before you actually go through with it. So it can greatly increase the safety of the surgery. And in terms of wearable devices, it's also a very important application because when you are applying telehealth or remote medicine, you need to be able to collect these informations from a remote area. For example, the patients may be at home and the patients must be wearing sensors that are sensitive. So now you have like shirts and shoes and socks and pants, all of these wearable devices. We're seeing a trend in doubling the growth in the future. And right now, for example, these the watches are being used to monitor, for example, the heart rate, the pulses, and everything. In the future, it would also be applied to telemedicine as well. Now, 5G can work with these really large big data. So right now, for 4G to process these data or to conduct remote surgery is simply impossible because there will be lags. So I think these 5G remote surgery could probably apply to clinics that are in remote areas for doctors to be able to perform these surgeries in cities but be able to transform these instructions and transmit these instructions to these remote clinics or to an ambulance. For example, an ultrasound scan can be performed in an ambulance by the paramedic and send the scan data over to the hospital through 5G, and the doctors or surgeons can be viewing in real time and send instructions back to the paramedics, and they can perform timely required medical assistance. So now microelectronic is something that is being used right now. For example, Google has also announced that they are working on these smaller contact lenses with microelectronics. Right now, it's not very successful, but we do believe it will be successful in the future. So whether it's for your eye health or application in other areas could be very promising. For example, it could be used to monitor the change of your glucose, and by changes of your body condition, it can help to control your diabetes. Or it could be the microelectronics can be made into a pill, and small cameras can be built into it. Because right now, if we're going to take a look inside your body, we need to insert a tube into your body with these really small cameras. But in the future, we could implant these cameras into these microelectronic pills, and you just swallow it. And with the computer devices, we can control where the pills go to see what's going on in certain places. And the information and the data can be transmitted back to the computer, and we can really gain these real-time information. Of course, there are also developments in making them implantable medical devices. So, for example, it can monitor you 24/7 if it's been implanted in your brain or in your certain parts of the body. Or, for example, if it's implanted in your brain, how it can stimulate your brain to deal with either strokes or Alzheimer. These are all developments that we're looking at in the future. And some of these Of course, these examples are not by Wistron because some of them are developed over a very long time.
And actually, the AI in-house at Wistron Medical Technology, we were founded officially 5 years ago. But actually, we started researching into this field 10 years ago. It's just this company was officially founded 5 years ago. So far, we have developed various applications. And here are just some of the applications that I would like to share with you. So first of all, we would talk about robotics, the lower limb exoskeleton robot, and also big data, AI, and AIoT, and also CV. And we have NLP processing, and we have text processing, and also behavioral motion detection. Last but not least, we have Wi-Fi remote detection. So first of all, I would like to talk about this exoskeleton. This is Kyogo, and actually it was founded in Canada. We work with our Canadian collaborators. And in the past few years, we have renovated, we upgraded the software and hardware so that it now has entered commercialization and has gained certification and been approved by FDA in the United States and also in Taiwan FDA. Unlike its competitors, the motion is not made by the machine. It's not the machine or robotics taking the people to move. It's not about giving orders. And you can press a button or you can control by your audio order. I mean, that is the general stereotypes, but this is more special. You have to move first, and this robotic will follow your move and support your move, so it's very different. So we have more than 10 sensors to make different decisions, real-time decisions, so that the user can stand up, can move up and down the stair, and also kneel down. One knee actually jump and run. So as you can see, we can watch this video. Actually, this user here, his pelvic joint was hurt. So he's now sharing with us his experiences in using Kyogo.
Everything that is a handicap for me is no longer the case with Kyogo because I have my autonomy. It's a tool that helps me to sit down and stand up, or even to bend down to pick up a paper off the ground. Kyogo is a gem to discover while waiting for an operation or for people suffering from degenerative diseases, perhaps multiple sclerosis or Parkinson's.
So in the beginning, the reason why we invested in Kyogo and just made the decision to work with them is because this is really a special experience. And very often when we look into profiles of this startup, very often they come to us for presentation. But this Canadian company is very special. I remember they did not do any presentation at all. They simply sent 3 users to share with us their experiences with Kyogo. So for example, this exoskeleton robotics, how it changed their life, how it made their move change. So I was particularly impressive with one of the users. He is about 30 centimeters taller than me. He's really strong, but his lower limbs were hurt. So he relied on wheelchair. He could stand, but he couldn't stand long. So that user, that gentleman was sharing with me his experiences with Kyogo. He said his biggest expectation is that he wanted to hold his granddaughter around the garden. He wanted to walk around with his little one. He thought he couldn't make this wish come true, but with Kyogo, thanks to Kyogo, he could have held the baby, the little baby, walking in the garden, and he cried in front of me, right in front of me. So I'm really touched by his tears. And that means Kyogo, that really changed the life a lot for the users. That's why we made the decision to invest this Kyogo, and we decided to help them make this product commercialized. And this one, as you can see in the video, she suffered from stroke in her 20s, and you can see going upstairs and going down the stairs, it has changed her movement. And also going down the stair, initially, she will have to take 2 steps for each stair, but now with Kyogo, she could just very smoothly walk downward. And this is another solution, the dialysis assistant solution. This is also a big application of big data. For dialysis, each year we spend more than $5 million in our health insurance. And this is actually in Taiwan, we are always top 3, among the world if you look at this expenditure. In the process, the biggest risk is that the blood pressure suddenly drops. So the predictive functionality in the dialysis facilities, it's very important. So we work with MOEA, this is our collaborator, and we combine the data from this MIS, so we had this big data analysis. And in the past few years, we have accumulated more than 1 billion data. I think we have the most data when it comes to the dialysis data around the world. So with this Vitals Gateway, we can deliver various predictions. As you can see here in this room, each device is connected to the gateway. It's one-on-one pairing up. And we have published a lot of articles, and we have gained certification. This is the first DFDA for software. Actually, this was issued 4 years ago. So we are really the pioneer in the industry with this big data analysis in dialysis application. So among the hospitals that have introduced these devices since 2019, as you can see, immediately we see more than 50% drop of the occurrence of this sudden blood pressure drop. So now we are using collective data. We are not looking into a personal or individual data. So this is just based on big data. And when it comes to healthcare services, because we know that the kidney dialysis is really a costly service. So how do we prevent the dialysis? For patients, they don't necessarily have to enter dialysis. So we decided to go much ahead. For example, for this diabetes patients, for example, they can measure how much water they have drank, or the blood pressure, the blood sugar, etc. We can take more preventive measures. And also for the extremities of the limbs, for diabetes patients, this is really for them this high-risk area. So we can have some remote monitoring of the extremities of the limbs. And then we keep going forward. So here we have multiple subtle layers of a comprehensive solution. We have individual personal version for personal use. Also, we can have a corporate gateway. This is the enterprise version. So actually, you can have some small competition with your colleagues. Also, we have a long-term trend analysis. And also, this is one highlight. We have cross-system integration. For example, if you had health check at a hospital, then actually you can import the data into the system so that you can have integrated reports. And then we have more precision in your digital analysis. And of course, we have this remote text consultation. And we can have video conferencing feature in this service. And for enterprise, yes, it's also available. So we already see some enterprise clients. They already introduced the system into their company. And due to the pandemic, we also have some education education feature, for example, for how to take preventive measures against the pandemic. And also we have games or small competitions in the company. So for a company, for enterprise client, it will be much easier to understand how healthy its employees are. And for this sensory technology, so in the beginning, we look at the people suffering from dementia. And when it comes to application, we made it into game. So the interfaces are fun. So for the elderly or the users, actually, they can follow the screen and they can do some exercise, or they can pose they can test the gesture, and then we can scan if they are suffering from, for example, they are losing their muscles, etc. As you can see the video in the daycare center. So here, as you can see, in iPads, actually, we integrated the resources from clinical experts, and also we integrated data from, for example, the treadmills or the health center machines. So the data can be collected and integrated. These are available for long-term analysis. You don't have to input the data manually every time. Actually, they can introduce the data automatically. In the past, we had similar design of this similar interface, but a lot of times people are too lazy to input their personal data every time after use. So once it's automated, actually the data is more precise. And as you all know, whether it's big data or AI, data is really the key. The purity or the precision level of the data is really the key. And now we have a audio assistant. This is voice AI medical assistant. I think we're the only audio assistant available in Chinese, English, and also in mathematics and numbers. So whether it's jargons in hospital or in specific fields, actually it's traceable in this platform. And I think in particular, it has improved a lot of efficiency for the medical staff. They don't have to input the data afterwards. Actually, it's real-time captured. They don't have to recall what happened today. So everything is captured right away on site. So everything is recorded. For example, as you can see in this news clip, it says that with voice AI assistant, you can enter the folder, and also you can automatically identify, for example, the medical jargons, and also instantly capture the data. Last but not least, this is the last reference I would like to share with you. This is a contactless vital signals sensing solution. So, for example, here you can look at the heartbeat, the rhythm, and also the breath count. So, when it comes to the postpartum service center, it can be used to monitor the baby, their vital signs. And actually, we have saved 2 babies thanks to the system. So during our experiment periods, one of our engineer, the technician, he noticed that the data was not right. The signs are not stable. He immediately called the postpartum service center, asking them to check the baby. So at the check, yes, the baby was covered by the blanket. So immediately we identified the breath of the baby was too short and shallow. But since the baby was not crying, so thanks to the system, we could detect this risk. And the other case was that the baby was suffering from heart disease. So that really saved their lives. And also we use the system for long-term care. For example, in daycare services, sometimes the patient may be lying on bed for too long. So with the system, we can monitor the vital signs and also our development of the diseases. Thank you, Mr. Chong. Our next speaker is Superintendent from National Taiwan University Hospital, Mr. Ming-Shiang. National Taiwan University is the well-renowned hospital in Taiwan. The National Taiwan University is well known for its efficiency, also its best care for the patients. Now let's welcome Mr. Wu.
Hello, I am very honored and very glad to be here to share with you from the perspective of a hospital or clinical medicine to see how we can introduce these new technology to empower hospitals. Now, at the peak of the pandemic, I received a complaint from one of our students. He said that doctors are being paid with very little, but shouldering great responsibility and risks. And I said, it's not that scary because this is actually the best time to be a doctor. We have so many new technology that can help to relieve some of the burdens of medical staff. And also, we can gain better understanding of the patient's condition with these new technology that are being developed. Now, there is a joke online that asks who is responsible for activating the digital transformation. Is it CEO, the CFO, the CTO, or CIO? The answer is none of the above, because the actual answer is COVID-19. The COVID-19 is, in fact, an accelerator of digital transformation. At school, in the past, if we were to ask these professors to teach online, they will say, over my dead body. No way. I refuse remote teaching. Now, if they say that unless the students are vaccinated, I would like to teach remotely. So we can see COVID-19 is an accelerator as well as a challenge, an opportunity for digital transformation. It's very critical. Now, even though for the world, the year 2020 has been greatly risky, but because of COVID-19, there were a lot of measures that have become something that people become accustomed to. For example, contactless technology are all catching up. And medicine is something that we really need personal contacts. You need to see the patients with your own eyes. But in the future, contactless medicine could be a new paradigm. My personal favorite author, Harari, already pointed out in his book, Homo Deus, that we know medicine is to cure diseases, but we are not really enhancing human health. Now, as Mr. Chong has mentioned, Brian has mentioned during his presentation from Wistron, he said that medicine is not just to treat disease, but to enhance human health. It's not just about COVID-19, because we know COVID-19 broke out in December 2019, but the real outbreak is in 2020. But in January 2019, the famous Nature Medicine already featured medicine in the digital age, and that whole issue was about medicine in the digital age. So we're talking about from the embryo to grave, your entire life and everything that has to do with the medical scene can be assisted with AI. So my answer to my student is that Bill Gates is probably one of the most important person of this age. So you must trust whatever he says. He says that in the future, the most promising job in the future, the first of all would be AI and energy and biomedical. So I believe that Taiwan would be, because we are now led by the smartest and the best profiting people. So I believe the AI accelerator will greatly aid Taiwan's development. Now, if we look at the 4 stages of industrial revolution, medicine application has come at a rather late stage compared to other industries, because medicine is about human health and human life. So our monitor, the supervision and monitoring can be more stringent and rigorous compared to other industries, which is why companies that are developing medtech are all complaining. But that can't be helped, But as I said earlier on, COVID-19 has accelerated the transformation and development and supervision. So we are now applying a lot of these. The digital technology is greatly applied to a lot of industries and now gradually moving into the medical circle. Now, medical services in Taiwan comes at a very cheap price. So people say we don't have a problem in Taiwan. But when we look at the evolution of USA healthcare system, comparing 1975 to the current stage, you can see the medical staff has increased from 4 million to 16 million, but the health cost for each person has increased from $550 annually to at least $11,000 annually. However, are the patients being treated better? In the past, these first initial visit can take up to 1 hour, but now in the United States and also in Taiwan, a lot of people say the grass is greener on the other side, but it's not necessarily because these initial visits can last only from 7 to 12 minutes. 12 minutes for new visits and 7 minutes for revisits. So if you really put it down in numbers, you can see that we are spending more but receiving less. So we are spending less. In 1975, they spent less than 8% of the GDP on healthcare costs, but now it's up to 18%. So we can see these transformations are not necessarily for the better. And the US is envious of the health system in Taiwan. And the reason for that is because they are growing the medical industry in the US as a profiting industry, but in Taiwan, it's a non-profit industry. It's for the welfare of the people. So if we look at the essence of medicine, this is a quote, one of my favorite quotes. Medicine is the uncertainty science and the art of probability because it's filled with uncertainty, but it's an art of probability. So we can also look at probability in terms of possibilities or the percentage of probabilities. But medicine itself is filled with uncertainty in the world of science. And when we look at the 4S of clinical medicine, the patients or the family members of the patients, they want to know what is happening to me and how can I be cured? Will I be cured? These are the 3 most important questions the patient wants to understand. Because if you have a temperature, you can have different diagnosis. It could be COVID-19, it could be a flu, it could be pulmonary disease. So different diagnoses will lead to different therapies, and some can lead to respiratory failure, some won't. So there are so many uncertainties, but we are unable to right now to say for certain the different mechanisms of these diseases. A lot of the times we say we need to be patient-centered, but in reality, that's not the same. We actually fit all patients with one size. We don't take into consideration all the different elements. We look at these symptoms and we see the symptoms and we decide that this is what is generally prescribed for these symptoms. Now, as Paul Ehrlich said, we fail because we are not exact, which is why we are talking about precision medicine right now. In the medicine world right now, people think that we are being cared for, but according to what I have just shared with you, there are many problems underlying our medicine at the moment. So we call them in this world of shallow medicine because we have insufficient data, we don't have enough time, we're restricted in our environment for a clinic. Sometimes we would be lucky to even have a telescope. So this word cloud is a patient's image of a doctor. They think the doctors are always in a rush, they're very rude, they're very arrogant, they don't care, they're very busy, they're not very sympathetic. So we are curing and treating these diseases with medicine, but we're not really enhancing the human health. However, the sub-health is the majority of the people that we have to treat right now, because we only have about 10% of the population who are really healthy. And we are focusing all of our resources on the 20% that are sick and unable to really take care of the sub-health, which takes up 70%. So when we look at some of the problems and challenges that we have of the shallow medicine world that we are in at the moment, in summary, right now we're not focusing on health, prevention, and early diagnosis. In terms of cancer, we wait for these patients to develop symptoms before we decide, okay, you're going to use target medicine or surgery or chemotherapy. We are not preventing anything. And also we have insufficient understanding of shallow analysis of pathogenesis from health to diseases. So, for example, in the past, my teacher used to tell me that if you have ulcer for a day, you have ulcer for life. We believe that patients develop ulcer because they eat really spicy stuff, because they live a very busy life, and they must always be treated with the same medicine for life. But after I discovered these different germs that are leading, these different bacteria that are actually leading to ulcer, I understood that ulcers can be treated differently. So we are all looking at these from the perspective of a hypothesis. We're not really looking at the big data. So you are, for example, if you're a police, you would be determining that this person is guilty before you find any evidence. So we're not being precise enough, which leads to our topic today. Why are we talking about digital transformation in medicine? Because through these digital transformation, we can provide patients with more precise medicine and health, which is our ultimate goal, to give them a better care, more exact and warm care. So this leads to our new holy grail in medicine. First of all would be precision medicine and precision health. The second is digital medicine, digital health. And the third is smart medicine and smart health. Now, why are we talking about precision medicine? In the past, it used to be one size fit all, one treatment for all patients. The patients are all different, but you treat them with the same treatment. Then we have the stratified medicine, where we come up with 3 different kind of treatments, but we have more groups of patients than 3. For example, for diabetes, even if you have a type 2 diabetes, there could be 5 categories of these type 2 diabetes. So why is this patient being administered this drug, and why is this person administered with insulin? There is no objective basis or evidence for these decisions. So precision medicine is about personalized medicine. We are considering the different environments these patients are in, the different genes, and using these different elements to predict their disease and to better predict the treatments that they might need. So we place more emphasis on prediction and prevention. So for example, we want to provide our patients with the right care for the right person at the right time. And that is what precision medicine is aiming. But precision medicine and precision health is popular right now in terms of cancer. In the past, it's all about chemotherapy. it can achieve some effects, but there is great side effects. So we moved further on to target medicine. And Gleevec is one of the most famous target therapy. So there was a film that's called Dying to Survive. They imported Gleevec to India to sell. But Gleevec applied to the precision medicine for oncology is it's like an agnostic drug ending the era dictated by the anatomic site of origin, because in the past we see that the gene mutation is at a fixed location, so it's good for leukemia or other chronic diseases. That is very good That is a very proper application for Gleevec in terms of precision medicine. So in 2015, Obama activated the precision medicine initiative, which is called All of Us. And the analogy he used is that you can match a blood transfusion to a blood type, but why can't we match cancer cure to genetic code? So their goal is to collect from 1 million volunteers genetic and health data, and currently we have collected over 300,000 data. We have over a dozen medical institutes in Taiwan participating in this program.
So speaking of precision medicine, and if you look at digital health, of course, that's related to the field of mobile health. And with mobile technology, so for what does it mean by e-health? That means the application of ICT in medical development. So if you look at digital health, that means it's e-health plus innovative technologies from new fields such as big data and genomics, and also AI digital health. That's overall, that's actually its umbrella covering all these technologies. For example, it can be determined by your lifestyle. In the past, maybe the doctors will ask, for example, how many times you exercise a day, a week. And I mean, compared to asking, question and answer, actually you can have wearable devices, and then actually we have better understanding of your lifestyle. In the past, maybe for diet or health, the questions could be simple. Okay, are you vegetarian? Do you take animal protein? But actually, those who have animal protein, maybe they are healthier than vegetarian. So what the data really says on these wearable devices, I think is really interesting. On these wearable devices, for example, we can leverage the smartwatch data. It can predict, for example, this person is suffering from COVID-19. For example, when the blood pressure or the body temperature is changing. Actually, the curve captured by the watch is more precise than the patient, him or herself. So Mr. Chong, the previous speaker, has described the technology very clearly. But here, I think whether in the hospital or in the long-term healthcare daycare services, I think health technology really is a beacon to the future possibilities. So in Nature 2020, this is a really heavyweight review of all this technology. They call it another form of AI. It's ambient intelligence. It's not exactly artificial intelligence, but it's called ambient intelligence. And ambient intelligence relied on development of digital ICT devices. It is to light up the blind spots of healthcare. And of course, since it's ambient, you don't have to worry about the privacy being invaded. It's not unlike the Truman's world. So with all the encrypted technology, for example, you can have the face blurred, then you wouldn't be identified. Otherwise, you feel like you're being monitored, like Truman's world. Last but not least, if you look at smart medicine, like I have talked about precision medicine or e-health, all in all, when you come to the hospital, in these fields, we want a solution that can detect the diseases or a better way to monitor the risk factors. Or when it comes to diagnosis or treatment of diseases, it can take place in hospital. Here are some examples. In National Taiwan University Hospital, we are the first in the world to identify the pancreatic cancer with digital technology. And we have we compare the data with our radiologists, and actually AI wins. For AI technology, as long as the data is of high quality and pure, then AI wins. And for a radiologist, for him or her, he wouldn't be able to scan more than 1,000 images from different patients, from more than 1,000 patients. But the AI, since it's a machine, it doesn't have to sleep and stop. Actually, it can complete the workload overnight. And also the machines, they can memorize, really concentrate in this workload instead of people, because as human beings, we might get distracted, we may not be as focused. So of course, AI won. Here, the telemedicine application model in the context of the COVID-19 outbreak. I think when it comes to telemedicine, actually it leaves behind the limits of space and time. It's like hospital anytime. For example, you need to see the doctor now, but if it's in the evening or at night, you can only check in the ER. But for telemedicine, it's 24 hours. And actually, in the United States, they have One Medical telemedicine services. They have 24-hour doctor stationed online, because in the United States, in the East and the West, they have 4 hours. They are 4 hours apart. So under the pandemic, when people are reluctant to visit the doctors in the hospital, actually it's a great opportunity for the telemedicine. They grew a lot. And telemedicine is not just about outpatient checks, but also, like I said, or you have read in previous speaker, the remote surgery. Actually, it's more precise than the eyes of the surgeon. So with 5G and 8K definition, a remote surgery is now available. It's not just about prescription or monitoring. Now, for the patients, actually, these new technology really have broken the boundaries. So it's hospital anytime, hospital everywhere. So all these factors lead to paradigm shift, and we need disruptive technology to carry on this paradigm shift. IABC, that's what I call. This is the abbreviations of this technology. So, Internet of Medical Things. And A means artificial intelligence, B means big data analysis, and the C represents cloud technology. It could be also database in the cloud. AI was first developed in 1950s, and in 1980s we had machine learning, and in 2010 we have deep learning that is based on ANNs, CNNs, RNNs, and we are seeing the technology getting more and more mature, and the field being more and more saturated, and gradually AI can process natural language. All these technologies are improving and they never stop learning. And for me, as my expertise is in the gut, in a digestive tract, I see that a lot of application from AI can really support the doctors. And then the doctors can have more time to interact with the patient and provide better felt services. Because, as a patient, you wouldn't be happy to be told by a machine, okay, you get this disease. I remember from one well-known celebrity, Mr. Li Kai-fu, he's a doctor in Google. And in one of his speech, he said that even though he's developing AI, but he really hates like being told by a machine, okay, you get this disease, you need to do what and that. So in my field, I think I've seen a lot of application available. And if data is the king, then AI will be the queen. So with the king and queen, with this couple, with big data and AI, of course, you can lead the country, not only in this field of the digestive tract. Actually, in various clinical scenarios, this technology is all applicable, not only in the genome, but also you look at the proteomics and also transcriptomics and metabolomics. I mean, we can only rely on machine learning to improve quick enough to deliver better services. So with all the information, it's like Google Map. If you have this Google Map turned on, you would have a smooth ride. And with AI, once this data is properly collected and properly applied, and from the womb to the tomb, then you can safeguard your health all the way. With all this data, like we've been saying, compared to existing model of the shallow man in the future, the first step would be we need proper sufficient data from the patient so that we can have deep phenotyping. That's the first step. And to achieve this, we need deep learning. And with deep phenotyping and deep learning, then the doctors can break free from their busy schedule and provide more sympathy to the patient. So that's what we call deep medicine, deep sympathy. So with all this disruptive technology, the medical field has experienced a paradigm shift. And like I said, if we compare the medicine we had and the future, I think the future trend will be prevention and prediction. And from prevention and prediction, according to all this omics, this analytics, we can have more personalized healthcare. And of course, we need to look at the creative technologies, thanks to omics and deep learning and AI. And like I said, the IABC, these are the pillars of this paradigm shift. With all this personalized data, well, in the past, we had data, but we weren't precise enough. In the past, maybe you look at, for example, analysis on biomarkers or the data we get from the blood analysis, but the biomarkers weren't enough. But now we have panomics or multiomics, and thanks to wearable devices, actually this data can be sent and transferred to the system every day. For example, we have better understanding of their lifestyle, their diet, and for example, their exercise habits. And now, thanks to this data, we have better understanding of clinical phenotyping. We don't have to use drugs or penetrate their lifestyle or change anything. And why big data analytics? Now that we are having more and more data and the machines, the analytics tools, they are more and more powerful. Now we have the privilege of providing better care at a lower cost. And thanks to this data science, actually, I think it's not just hypes. It's now part of our reality. And now we have new forms of data science, and here there are so many examples. For example, in the past, if you look at electrocardiograms, you can only look at, for example, convolution, but now it's fully connected. You can predict whether this patient will have a heart failure. Now, actually, with big data, we can see those that couldn't be seen in the past. And now, for example, with phenotyping, we can identify whether a user is suffering from genetic disorders. It's not just Down syndrome. Of course, Down syndrome is quite easy to detect because you can tell from their faces. But there are some special genetic disorders. Actually, they can be identified by facial detection. And actually, in ICU units, it can help the doctor to have better diagnosis. For example, how to have sepsis, better sepsis treatment, and then it can prevent the AKI taking place in the kidney because due to the lack of sufficient intro of IV drops. These are some successful examples we're already seeing in hospitals. And these are really paradigm shifts of healthcare. And thanks to big data, and in the past, it was a causal links. In the past, we had hypotheses, so we take preventive measures, but now everything's based on data. And now we are seeing a lot of new fields of knowledge. And now, even though it's traditional medicine, but we are seeing new science or new fields emerging. And for this different analysis, and of course, we know the human body, also biology in general, better. Of course, there are still challenges. Technologies are not always good. And for these researchers, it's just case series. It's not yet, we couldn't say it's evidence-based. And also methodology-wise, there are still some issues. And also, we have to make sure all these technologies can be implemented clinically. So it's not just for the development's sake. We need to think about how to integrate this technology into clinical use. Otherwise, it will be Google and IBM. They failed in this medical field. And I think you all know that, of course, people will ask, maybe doctors, they will get lazy, and they wouldn't be as experienced or expert in the past. But actually, they would have better diagnosis and better treatment for the patients. Then why not? They can spare more time interacting with others and spend less time wasting, in useless technology. But of course, there's a lot of uncertainty in the medical field. And like, for example, NLP, it look at text, but there's no context. And the concept of context is also very important. A lot of doctors, they would say, how do you know it's a black box or not?
And the 3 steps of digital transformation in terms of system digitalization and digital system integration, Taiwan is already doing a very good job in it. But how to really turn digital transformation into a business model will require focus on patient journey and patient experience. And this is something that the next speaker will be speaking about, because Amazon is always looking at the customer experience to improve it. If you can improve it, then the customers will want to use it. So this is what the future P4 medicine is about. It's predictive medicine, preventive, personalized, and participatory medicine. So the patients are being empowered to participate in their own medicine. So this triad of future medicine will be a very successful triad in the future, and this is about patient center and hospital everywhere. So using another example from Amazon, if one day you wake up with rash on you and then you call in to register, you call into the clinic through Oracle and use your camera to show the doctor the rash, and the doctor can prescribe your required treatment, and it can be sent to you through their logistics system, through PillPack and through Uber. The medicine can be delivered to your doorstep in an hour or 2, and if blood sample is required, they can even send that package to you. So would that replace doctors altogether? I don't think so, because I believe it's not really it's just like auto drive. You can't replace the drivers altogether. It will be semi-auto drive. So ultimately, I think in the future it will be a convergence of human and AI. The machines are reliable, but the doctors are trustable. So we trust the doctors, but the machines are more self-disciplined. So like I always say, AI is all about the technology, and people is all about the heart. So we need to combine the heart and the technology together. We would again like to thank Superintendent Wu from National Taiwan University Hospital. Before we proceed with the next item on the agenda, we would like to remind our audience, please refrain from videographing or photographing any of the slides that are going to be shared later on, because there are some confidential or sensitive issues information that will be shared. And we can see since ASUS ACIS was established in 2019, they have dedicated to the development of medical technology, helping doctors to come up with more precise clinical diagnosis. We would now like to welcome Dr. Huang to share with us on enabling precision medicine through the advancement of HIS. Thank you, Moderator. Thank you, Mr. Chong. Thank you, Mr. Wu. A brief self-introduction. I would first like to greet my two previous speakers. The reason I studied ICT was because I wanted to study medicine. And I have spent the past 30 years in the United States until I returned to Taiwan in 2018, and I joined ASUS, the ICE. ICE has been established for 3 years. We have 140 employees scattered in Singapore and Taipei. We started looking at different perspectives, and then we focused on smart medicine. Now, a lot of you understand that this is a very prominent topic right now. If we look at it from an investment perspective, starting from 2014, only 0.6 billion investment in 2014 to 6.6 billion in 2021. In the future, in the next decade, we're looking at over 175 billion growth in this industry. I think 2 years ago, when we first talked about smart medicine, people believe that medicine is God-given. It's a very rigorous and stringent process. So people say we shouldn't go right to the center. We should assist the doctors from the peripheral. So we started from ICD-10 coding. And through this service, we have landed one service after another with our ASUS Miracle. And through this, we noticed that there are great frustration felt by these medical staff. They're facing these really old systems. They're spending all the time trying to work with these old facility and computers instead of spending time on their patients, and they're spending time trying to integrate these other systems. They're using a lot of time trying to pass on information to other doctors, or spending a lot of time clicking away on the computer trying to find out what this patient was prescribed with earlier on. These doctors are facing problems of systems not being upgraded. A lot of the HIS system used in these HIS hospitals are running on whole chain and cobalt, and without upgrade into these systems, a lot of the times the medical staff are being overworked and frustrated. And also, when we are marching towards the future of precision medicine, we're moving at an extremely slow speed. So 2 years ago, we started from the ICD-10 coding to DDI alert. Now we have 8 services being applied that are SaaS applied to hospitals, and we have seen over tenfold of growth in these hospitals. We have over 800K service requests per month and over 17,000 active users per month, because all of our services are SaaS and we have high reliability and running at least 3 milliseconds for each process. We know that smart medicine is a very deep topic. So we keep thinking about what really requires us and can be solved with computer science. And then we realize that it's all about medicine and information and system. We believe that only by really breaking through the silos can we really apply these services to the hospitals, and looking at one project after another that are really user-generated services, whether it's the mobile app to manage chronic diseases or other services. We can really solve the problems of our users and really come up with real-world data that is patient-centered, and then the AI can be used to converge this into a knowledge graph. But we also know that there are so many noises in these big data. A lot of them are also wrong. We see increase treated as blood pressure or weight treated as something else, misunderstood as something else. A lot of these data are mixed together. So only when these are being properly utilized. So we came up with Lumus, ASUS Lumus, which is a search platform that can really convert these medical insights into real-world evidence and come up with diagrams that can be interpreted to come up with more models to serve more users, to come up with a positive information flow. So that is what we're working with. Can I go back one page? Okay. So I would like to share our projects with you. We first have a mobile app that is being used in the hospital, and also the HIS system that is being developed in the hospitals, and also Lumos that's designed for research institutes. Now, as Brian has mentioned earlier on, chronic diseases is prevalent around the world. Those population above 65 years old, about 85% of them are suffering from chronic diseases. About 30% of them have over 3 comorbidities, and they need to take more than 5 type of medicines per day, and you will see another increase by 25% in the future. It's very time-consuming and expenditure-consuming. We have 7 major chronic diseases, and the top would be CKD, which requires dialysis, and the second would be type 2 diabetes, and they have an increase by 20% in terms of the expenditure in the past decade. If we look at the evaluation on Lancet, in terms of chronic diseases, healthcare quality, we are falling behind compared to Japan and Singapore. So the doctors are really good. They are very good, but they're overworked. They're facing too many patients, so they don't have enough time to spend on the patients. And also the tools are old and not well developed, so it's very difficult for them to apply them to grasp the conditions of the patients. We have a serious lack of medical staff. The patient and medical staff ratio is way below the standard, which means they don't have enough resources to spend on patients, but the patients don't have enough resources to care for themselves or to monitor their own conditions. So I think this is something that computer science can help with. So we decided to develop a system for chronic diseases and for cancers. So we looked at from smart clinics, outpatient service, smart drug administering, smart outpatient clinic, and these outpatient data. With all these data collected, our app will come up with a more integrated data to help the doctors come up with a more precise diagnosis, and can also help patients and medical staff to come up to reach real-time communication. Of course, we understand Rome was not built in a day. How to help these patients to get used to these mobile apps to collect their daily data? We start with what they need to do on a daily basis. For example, they go to the outpatient clinic services. So we start from the registration to the payment to picking up their medicine. They can all be completed on the app. And this is one of the case studies. We worked with Zhongshan Medical University Hospital, and for the past few months, we see 28% of their patients interact with the hospital through the app, and the overall usage grew by 3.6-fold, and they use it at least 10 times per month, and about 37% of these chronic disease patients, they use this for a registration. According to our analysis, about 10% of the patients are ill but don't know which service or which outpatient clinic service to visit. So they go through this smart system to decide exactly what kind of medicine they need or what kind of doctors they need. And also, with big data, we can predict or to analyze the variations of the time doctors spend on different patients and just tell the patients at what time you should recommend the patients to arrive at the hospital at certain times. And also for the payment can be paid online remotely on the mobile. And also the drug and administering management can also be managed over the app so that the patients can tell on the map exactly what kind of drugs they're using, and the patients can follow their adherence. All of these data will be returned to the doctors so the doctors can keep up with the conditions that they're encountering.
And for the chronic disease prescription, actually the patient, they can order in advance. For example, before they go to a hospital, they can order for the prescription. So the hospitals, they can be better prepared. So now I have a video to show you for this end-to-end scenario.
ICE 病患服务 App 在您看病的每个环节。
So for this app, actually, the different components of the process actually provide you the most convenient experiences. From registration, outpatient check, also the drug use. Actually, we have comprehensive care for you. So now let's look at the features. For example, the user may say, "Okay, I'm not feeling comfortable. I feel dizzy. Also, my ears are not comfortable, and I feel some pain in the chest. Maybe I should register in the hospital." But there are so many specialties. I don't know which one better suits me. So from the doctor, you can choose from. Actually, the AI can tell, for example, from your gender, your age, also all the symptoms that you report. And then with AI, we can recommend the better suited doctors. Okay. The user may say, okay, today I should go to the doctor, and actually the app will remind me that I can arrive by 4. I don't have to wait for too long. That is this feature of arrival time prediction. So after the check, actually the doctor asked me to draw some blood, and then I can report. I can send the data to him. So for this feature, actually, this is a third feature. Means if you're registering for some blood sample analysis, you don't have to wait too long. Actually, you can have a digital registration. You don't have to wait in person. And when I'm back to the ward, the doctor says that, okay, maybe I'm suffering from hypertension. If there's anything I need for the details, I can check the clinics around in my neighborhood. So with this digital report, actually, you can have all the data in your mobile devices. You don't have to get everything in paper, in hard copy. So once you go home, actually, yes. When I'm at home, once you have all the prescribed drugs, actually, you can also check your smartphone, and there's a direction of how to use the drug, how many times a day. So also, there's a feature that can remind the user to make reservation of the chronic prescription. So this is an automated reminding feature. So user may feel, okay, I'm feeling so much better. Now let's plan for the future. So this is also one interesting feature that it will remind the user about the next reservation with the doctor. So in this app, not only we have the reminding the time scheduling services, but also we're expanding the user scenario to a comprehensive medical services. So actually, this app has been implemented in Zhongshan Hospital, in Zhongshan Medical Hospital. So we are integrating with web devices. So for the patient, before his next visit, the doctor can view all the data from the device and offer more personalized diagnosis. And next, I would like to welcome my colleague, Ted Huang, and he will talk about how this technology is used in hospital. Thank you, Dr. Tai-Yi. Hi, everyone. My name is Ted Huang. I'm the senior AVP from ASUS. And like Tai-Yi said, I would like to present to you the X-HIS Hospital Information System. Actually, I heard about a lot of frustration stories from my friends in IT. Some of these complaints actually come from the pharmacist, or sometimes actually come from the superintendent. So the platform, even though you have introduced this technology, but without proper management, different users have different access. So a lot of times you only see lags or delays. Also, the experience is totally time-consuming, wasting a lot of time from the doctors. For example, from the ER, and ER, what they want to have an integrated way to look at vital signs and also the data from the patient. However, the development, the computing language is too old, so they cannot present the data in a proper way in the computer. So because of this unsatisfying user experiences, usually the IT system is forgotten. So with the legacy system, also limitations, if it's not improved, the doctors, they are not going to use because of this worsening experiences. According to a survey, more than 60% of the doctors in the United States, they are not willing to use systems because they are feeling that they are taking away their productivity. They spend too much time on documentation in a computer instead of with the patient. So IT in Taiwan, actually, there's a bottleneck. They were trying so hard to break through. But according to a survey in Taiwan, most hospitals were suffering from a huge shortage of professional IT personnel. For example, we're seeing some undocumented specification, disparate and legacy systems, outdated prog language, overstressed environment, etc. All these are challenges for the HIS, the hospital system development. We know that HIS is actually the pivot when it comes to the efficiency of the hospital operation. And a lot of systems, actually, they were introduced at the dawn of health insurance, a national standard, a national measure. So it's been almost 2 decades, and these systems have become too old. And there are challenges in, for example, in finding a proper maintenance vendor, and also we have low motivation and high resistance from the front line. And of course, the unpredicted cost and return is another challenge. So we only see a lot of delays, at the front line. So if you look at the globe, around the world, the transition from homegrown to commercial solution is imperative from US to EU, then Asia. It started 10 years ago in Europe, and now it's seen in Asia, for example, in Singapore. And in Taiwan, actually, local hospital or smaller institutes, they prefer to use smaller scale or maybe on-site solution. However, at higher level, the bigger hospitals, they prefer to use a comprehensive system. So more than 80% or actually 90% major hospitals in Taiwan develop their own HIS, and small hospitals adopted commercial solutions from vendors. So as you can see, a lot of systems actually is too old, as their legacy, as old as 20 years. So if they are not capable to develop or upgrade by themselves, it's almost impossible to renew the system. However, like I said, with the pandemic, we really need to develop, for example, the new TOCC system. And we saw that now that we have more than 800 or 900 IT staff around Taiwan, they're developing the same system. Isn't it a waste of time? So why not we have a common development? So here I look at 3 levels of upgrade for HIS. For example, one solution is that they extend their homegrown solution, and also they can outsource to system integrator, or they can refer to global references to develop commercial hits. So here are different pros and cons for different solutions. But if you look at domain expertise, actually homegrown has more advantage. But if you look at a longer period of time, this homegrown actually is sacrificing the value of a team that consistently break through in technology. So XHIS by ASUS is a powerful AI embedded IT platform for the next generation healthcare providers. We adopted hybrid cloud architecture. We have modularized microservice design, and we adopt automatic CI/CD seamless upgrade, and we have native AI and data as a service. And we have real-time analytics and monitoring. Last but not least, we have interoperability and accessibility. Here, I would like to share with you a successful reference in Tzu-Chi Hospital in Taipei. So XHIS is adopted in Taipei Tzu-Chi. So let's look at the video. Here, I would like to show you the ICE reference, the ICE implementation in Tzu-Chi Hospital in Taipei. So this quarter, we offer new features. In the previous season, we have electronic copies of patient history. So we have more and more convenient features based on AI. So for a surgeon on neurology, for example, you enter the system, you click the name of the patient, and then you will be taken to a landing page of the new system. And during the patient check, you can immediately access the data of the past prescriptions or the data of all kinds of check. And compared to the legacy system, this new feature of outpatient services provide so much better readability and better access to available data. And for the doctor, can use a new filters to duplicate the data for detail. And back in the outpatient check, actually, the doctor can edit the history of the patient. We have autocomplete and spell check. So the doctor can very quickly complete the writing process. And also we have automatic coding. It can replace the system automatic search. Actually, this automatic coding can recommend the ICD, which very often could be forgotten. If necessary, the doctor can still use the auto-code search enforced, and then you can key in the keyword to search all the ICD-9, ICD-10, all codes available there. And we also set up this smart search above the search bar of the prescription. So just with a few codes, a few keywords, you can quickly find the things you want. You don't have to enter a big system looking for a small thing. And with this auditing services, also it has automatic warning. Or when you are scheduling a test for the patient, here we have automated push of the data, and then you can simply key in the date. And back to the first page, you can hit complete, and then you complete the process. So in Taipei Tzu-Chi, we continue using technology and also human wisdom to improve the quality and efficiency of healthcare and get the time back for the patient and the doctor. So in ASUS, we have so much higher standard if compared to the IT in hospital. Actually, we have monthly active requests, and we monitor monthly the active user. see if there's abnormality in the system. And also we have a specific satisfaction level. Without bothering the patient, we can quickly obtain the satisfaction level. And for example, in Beizi, that's a Tzu Chi hospital, actually now they have 95% of the satisfaction level, much higher than our target, which was 75%. And this is really a world-class level. With more than 300 ms, that's P99, that's our target, but actually we only have 114 milliseconds, that's P99. And of course, when it goes online, we have problem report, but actually we can change request, and the turnaround time is less than 3 days, and actually almost 46% of the incidents can be fixed within 3 days, from the INT test to, from the front line to high end. And if it's within 5 days, actually the turnaround time, the turnaround level is more than 85%. And all this prove our commitment to the frontline doctors. Now let's have time back to Tai-Yi. So he will continue presentation.
So our final component is how to introduce what we call the functional intelligence and expert intelligence so that we can really compile these data. There are so many noise. We need to come up with all these different we need more experts to help us. How do we introduce these intelligences to give them a better tools for them to conduct better search? Now, more and more people care about real-world data through real-world experience. Now, we start from a clinical discovery to collecting data to really compiling, compiling to come up with insight discovery and to develop real-world evidence. But this is a very streamlined process, but the reality is you may go through various and repeat various different stages. Sometimes due to the old systems in the hospital, the collection of data can be rather slow, or from the clinical idea to really come up with the insight, discover the insight can take up to a year. The reason it's so difficult is because it's scattered and there's a lot of irregularity in these and heterogeneity of these data. And it's especially in terms of the NHI, the National Health Insurance data, and all that doesn't include all the wearable devices and the other real-world data that we can collect. There isn't really a good tool available right now to convert all of these data into real-world evidence. So IX is dedicated to solving this problem. We came up with tools to clear up these data, and through consultant services through ISO 2001 and HIPAA compliant to provide data security, and we provide two main research tools. We have a search-enabled function so that they can search for their cohort through their medical records and through different times and dimensions. And they can also define their research designs through different group comparisons. I would like to explain our first function. Now, when you use ICD-10 codes, you can come up with you can find the cohort that you're trying to locate and have a diagram to visualize this. And through the tool, you can see the quality and the values of these reports. And we also have a visualized process of the journey that these patients are going through. And our next clip will illustrate our end-to-end scenario. The IX-Lumo provides a retroactive population through these different structures to quickly set the parameters. And next, for the clivasan is used for type 2 diabetes and other drugs that could lead to heart failure. So first, we have the constraints that are set for the population, and we define them as type 2 diabetes, and we exclude those that have been diagnosed as type 1, and then we input canagliflozin, and then we exclude other patients that are on other medicines, and then we count the patients to come up with the cohort and the number of targets. We set the two groups in the same way, and for the intervention, we choose other drugs that are being used, and we count the patients and come up with another cohort for the covariates. And this research is, we have hypertension, hyperlipidemia for a covariate analysis, and the outcome looks at the heart failure as primary endpoint. Then that completes your preliminary research design, and then we compare. You click on compare and Lumos will start analysis. Lumos will look at the two differences between the two groups and look at the gender age covariates. And we see the two groups, they have significant differences. And the incidence rate looks at the main outcomes. And we look at the two groups of and we look at the differences in their heart failure and Kaplan-Meier curve. We look at the incidence rate of outcome in the two groups, and we look at the two cohorts have a certain percentage of people who have yet to suffer from heart failure. And the Cox regression looks at the risk hazard ratio between the two. We can see the canagliflozin have a less than 1 of the incidence rate, so we can see a significant rate for these two. So that determines the canagliflozin element in protection against heart failure. You can save or export these results. Through Lumos, you would originally have to go through a lot of time to take a lot of time to go through this data, but with this Lumos, you can quickly go through the comparisons and analysis. Now, that was a simulation of the diabetes, obesity, metabolism research that was published in 2018. The whole process only took us 5 minutes in the comparison and analysis. Of course, we won't be able to help these researchers in really coming up with discoveries, but we can help them with clearing up the data. And this diagram shows our idea flow. Only by breaking down the silos can we really implement these different services. So whether it's the HIS system in the hospital or the mobile app used by the patients, or using Lumos to clear up these data for the researchers, the IX vision ultimately is to become the best healthcare IT partner, because in the future, I'm sure you will be facing more computer science problems that are beyond the IT talents in the hospitals, or it could be very costly for you to solve it alone in the hospital. So you need to work with IT solutions like us to provide you with these different apps so you can stand on our shoulders to reach the future of precision medicine. Thank you very much. We would like to again thank Dr. Huang and Mr. Huang for your sharing. Next, we would like to welcome the Senior Business Development Manager from Amazon Web Services Taiwan Limited, Brian Chu, facilitating medical digitalization with AI. Next, we would like to welcome Mr. Zhu on stage to share with us his presentation. Thank you very much. First of all, our VP, Mr. Huang, Mr. Chong, Mr. Wu, and Mr. Li, thank you very much for inviting me to the event today. As the last speaker for today, I am under great pressure because I feel everybody has covered everything I wanted to talk about, especially Dr. Huang. You have covered everything that I wanted to mention. So at the end, I would like to summarize. Ultimately, first of all, in the future, the medicine would be patient-centered. This will be repeated over and again, which means the patients needs to be satisfied. They need to feel that they have been served and that the whole service process is a happy one. And to achieve this future, we need to go through a lot of data. And Dr. Huang went through a lot of the tools that can reach this goal. Now, Vice President Chong started with AI, which is the technology. I really like the analogy that Mr. Wu used. AI is king, and medicine technology is queen, and you need the king and queen to be combined. So I really like how today has been orchestrated. Now, you can take a picture of this slide because it has my email on it, but please don't take a photo of the other slides. If you feel that you need me to elaborate on anything else later on, feel free to contact me. Today, I would like to share with you that what the trends that AWS has seen worldwide and what our knowledge is and what has our customers achieved with the AWS solutions that we have provided, what they have improved, and ultimately what role does AWS play in all of this. So that would be my key sharing today. First of all would be the challenges COVID-19 has brought us, which is changed the original model of healthcare, because we know that in the past, when you see a doctor or you do any medical research or be diagnosed or receive inspections or pick up your prescription, you need to go back to the hospital. But with COVID-19, all contacts are off limits. In the past, everything surrounds clinics and hospitals. You need to be there in person, but including the supply chain, the patients, the research, everything has been broken down. And I think the medical staff is suffering most of all, because I have a lot of family members who are medical staff members, and I would like to take this opportunity to thank all of our medical staff, because in addition to the pressure that you are under, you are also facing a lot of risks. So COVID-19 has changed the paradigm, and it's no longer hospital-centered. So what does the future look like? Like I said earlier on, it's going to be patient-centered, including the payment, including the service providing, and including treatment, and the regulation will all be changed to patient-centered. Like Mr. Peng has talked about how in the future we need more developments in technology and other services, because everything is data-driven. So we really admire how the people that are leading us have this vision, and this will definitely be the future trends. And healthcare always starts from patients. This is a very famous flywheel theory at AWS. We believe everything is like when you are on the flywheel, you add pressure to it, and with a positive cycle, it will continue to move on. So we believe that in the future, whether it's in medicine or biotech, you first need to improve the patient's experience. As Dr. Huang talked about, it's all the same idea. You need to give the patients a good experience. They need to feel that all the demands have been fulfilled. So we start from engagement. Starting from engagement, which is like when you register for an outpatient clinic service, that starts the patient and doctor relationship. Engagement is the first step. You need to diversify the engagements, and it has to be a happy process. And next would be the touch points. You need to know what the pain points are. You need to be able to locate the pain points of these patients. And during this process, you need to collect data, because you need to come up with customer insights. Based on these data, you need to come up with a very precise treatment suggestion or recommendation for this customer, which will be personalized as a precise medicine. So within this cycle, there is also another circle going outside of this circle, which is trust. At Amazon, we really care about two things. First of all, is customization. We talked about embracing our customers, which doesn't mean customer is always right, but it means we need to be one step ahead of the customer to help the customer feel better. If they feel good, it will bring in revenue in all other developments. And the second thing is building trust. In our principle, we need to earn the trust of our customers, which is why I kept talking about we want to win the trust of our medical staff, the hospitals, or our patients. That's very important. So how do you achieve this? This is just one example. We start from helping the patients to prevent themselves from diseases, which is when we're moving into the greater era of health. So also, we're breaking down that past pattern of having to go to the hospital or clinics to receive these medical services, which can be received over remote or telemedicine or wearable devices. This is very important. How do we achieve this data collection solution? And my key today would be AI and machine learning. How do we apply AI and machine learning to move everything forward based on the core of improving experience so that our customers, our patients can be better cared for?
So actually, AWS start with Amazon. And when we talk about Amazon, of course, people think about online bookstore. And also, it feels like, okay, Amazon is a big e-commerce platform, but actually, at a group level, we do a lot of things. For example, in 2006, Amazon Web Services was founded, and we are providing cloud as a service with IT. That means you don't have to have the systems on premise. Whatever the IT services you think about, actually, it's like a cloud. So you can just get connected, and you can utilize all these tools. And actually, that's lowering the entry level to IT access. So from then on, actually last year, 2020, during the pandemic, actually at the early stage of the pandemic, in March 2020, we launched the latest service that's Amazon Care. So what do we do?
Best care is always by your side, which is why we created Amazon Care, a healthcare experience built around you. Whether you need an answer to a question, someone to speak with face-to-face, or visit you in person, Amazon Care makes it easy for you to access the care you need. No appointments, no waiting rooms, letting you focus on what matters most.
So this is Amazon Care. So what does it do? Actually, it simplifies and actually single out the necessary care services. So you don't have to visit the hospital, but the doctor can see you. And like I said, there are various forms of engagement. It could be phone call, it could be text messages, or it could be video conferencing. So here, as you can see, for text messages, it's available 24 hours, 7 days. So if you have any question, any problem, actually you can input in the app, and then you can receive the feedback via text. And second choice will be on video conferencing. So we have doctors available online, so you can schedule a date, available time slot, so you can chat with the doctor, and you can describe your symptoms, or you can show the symptoms via video conferencing. So really, you don't have to queue for the doctor. You don't have to see the doctor in person, and you can receive the care via teleconferencing. And thirdly, like Superintendent Mr. Wu mentioned, the doctors actually they can have home visit. So these qualified doctors or professional medical staff, they can have vaccination or collect samples in remote areas. You can stay at home, and then the qualified professionals, they can visit you. And as long as they are trained, qualified, they can provide care in your house, for example, draw blood sample in your house. And when this service was first launched in Amazon headquarters, it's like in the morning after we visit a doctor, then the drug or the prescription will be available right in the afternoon. So actually, we had bill pay. We acquired a online pharmacy, and it's 100% compliant to United States FDA, so they can send the drugs, very quickly in the same day. So that means patients don't have to go to a hospital to receive care. So this is really a new service. And in the process, AWS and the Amazon group, the success didn't come overnight. We did a lot of research. We look into the data and AI. We try our best to improve the overall quality. And we believe that in the future, there's more than one way of cure. There's an AI way of cure, and also the doctors, the physicians' way of care, and Amazon Care is one example of integrated care. So next, I would like to say how to achieve this. Of course, digital transformation, that's the first step, like Superintendent Mr. Wu mentioned. So digitization brings a lot of benefits. Once everything or the decision is data-driven, it's no longer human hypothesis. It's based on real data. And secondly, it enables and improves research and collaboration because all those data-driven operational and clinical decisions are enabled. And how do we allocate the best suited technology? I think ASUS has wonderful solutions because it started with the user scenario. However, you have to choose the best suited technology is not necessarily the best in tier. But you see, if you are a big company, you have lots of budget, a big budget, you can do a complete solution. But if you do not have the full budget, you have to pick part of the components. So it's like a lot of times, if it's not complete, then very often it's like fireworks. And overnight, it's no longer available, it's no longer usable. And for us, it's a journey. This digital journey, there are several key steps. First is migration to hybrid. And a lot of on-premise services should be available in the cloud. And it should be accessible anytime. And also, these mature services should be available anywhere, anytime. And of course, in the end, as you can see, in the end, it reached precision medicine. So if we divide this journey into 3 phases, first, how do we solve problem with basic IT infrastructure? So if we look at the basic IT cloud transformation, the key industry trends, I think you're all familiar with what happened of the online threat or the malware. It's like some system, some hospital, they had to sacrifice some of the data because the system was not secure enough. So it's really not ethical. Before I joined Amazon, I was in IT security, and if you are threatening a hospital, this ransom attack, for me, is really 100% unethical. And in the hospital, very often, IT is less prioritized when it comes to all the operations. So if you want to make sure that your IT is secure enough in hospital, really, sometimes you have to dedicate a lot of budget. So the second stage is how do you predict healthcare relevant events. That means you have to compile the data in a proper way. For example, in the past, you have some scan, and then you have image data. Now you have really high definition, and the data itself is so big that you have to store this data in one centralized place. So how do I save this data in a proper way, in an organized way? That is also a problem. And also one very important issue is that also other speakers have mentioned it, interoperability. So I think this is happening in Taiwan, and in the United States, actually, it happened per request by FDA, United States. After October 2021, all the data available online should be in certain formats. In the United States, because the healthcare, the insurance was commercial instead of a national or a national benefit. So in the United States, FDA asked all hospitals to submit the data in file. And in Taiwan, for us, Of course, we will emphasize on file format because we want to be connected to the world. So we are having different associations, organizations. We're introducing the solutions to help us go to help all the hospitals go through this transition period. So data is really important. The structured data is very important, but it's at the same time challenging. Otherwise, no one could ever read or get insights from the data. So storing the data is one thing. So what do we do with the stored data? Let's see the example with Philips. So this department in Philips, they store the images captured by all the tools or the scan images. They upload to the cloud. And because all the images, the files are so big, if you have this storage on premise, the data center will be too huge and too costly. So this is really peta size. We are talking about peta size at scale. So they have a 40 PT 40 PT volume of data. So Philips, they store all this data in the cloud, and they can make real-time reading or interpretation of the data. So for the storage of medical data, really, it will be a huge challenge for almost all hospitals in the future. So as the volume of the storing data grow, and also we are seeing all this ransom attack getting more and more popular. This is really something that all hospitals have to overcome. So, like I said, because in the United States, the healthcare service is totally commercial. It's not necessarily sponsored by the government. So they have APAC and Cerner. And these two clients, our Amazon's clients, let me take Cerner for example. They leverage the AWS resources to the extreme. For example, all the calculation, processing, everything is on Amazon Cloud. So Cerner, what they do is they have a good IT system, but all the hardware is supported by AWS. So they don't have to procure the machines or the hardware. They can simply scale their services, their hardware with AWS. So there's one key. Like I said, the value is not in building your next model. It's in the ability to scale your models. So it's not about from 0 to 100, but it's actually we can offer right away. So if you feel that if you want to build an IT system and you see all the restrictions of your bandwidth, also hardware, just find me. We can help you expand and scale really quickly. And next part of the journey is about how to apply, how to best use this data. It's really about AI machine learning. Like I said, a lot of experts in AI. First of all, when it comes to hospital AI, they would go to the hospital and talk to the doctors whether they are interested in joining AI research project. So in the past, one successful area was image detection. So we had a lot of similar projects on image detection, but we are seeing fractures or knowledge gap. All this new system, these projects, actually, they cannot be connected at all to the HIS. It's like they are silos, and they cannot be connected to the daily life of the doctors. And for AI, it's not just about images. The AI can be leveraged, for example, in prescription, diagnosis of the patient. Also, we can take preventive care. So what happened to our customers, as you can see, this is a British startup, and they did wonderful things. I really love this video. And I can quickly explain the background of this video, the context. Actually, it was in 2018 in London. We had a summit, and you can Google. Actually, this company now, they have really huge market value. So the market, their business was collecting medical data. So as they reach, after passing some volume, they started doing AI and artificial intelligence analytics, and then they started to offer interactive services. It's like you are chatting with an AI doctor, but they don't have to worry about the chatting because in AWS we have Alexa, and we can offer the service to them. So let's check this video.
The kind of things that they're doing on AWS.
Alexa, I want to talk to Babylon.
Hi there, I'm Babylon and I'm here to help. To start, tell me what symptom is bothering you the most.
Well, I've got quite a sore stomach.
Sorry to hear that. Let's figure out what's causing your pain and how to treat it. Chris, where exactly is the pain?
So the later part of the video is about how they collected data.
Oh, it's not too bad.
And does it come and go?
Yeah, it comes and goes, and it's worse after eating.
I see. How would you describe the pain?
So, for example, as you can see on the screen, the AI has identified some possible symptoms.
Yeah, a little bit.
Have you vomited at all?
No.
Have you noticed you're feeling fuller sooner than usual?
No.
How long have you had this pain?
A few months, 3 months maybe.
Are you still a non-smoker?
Yes.
Okay, that's great. Have you been taking any of your ibuprofen tablets the last few days?
Yeah, I have.
Thanks, Chris. I know enough now to offer information on what may be causing your symptoms. It could be acid reflux or a peptic ulcer. I'd recommend speaking to a GP soon. They're likely to prescribe something called the proton pump inhibitor to control your stomach acid. I can then get this prescription to your home using your Amazon Prime.
Okay, thanks, Babylon.
My pleasure. Thanks for using Babylon with Alexa. Goodbye.
So as you can see, this is really not yet the best of AI, but this is good enough. So that was in 2018. So Babylon integrated Alexa services with his, and actually they can send the drug to your house, and actually they help you pre-register. I mean, if you're feeling pain, you have symptoms, you need to see a doctor, they can pre-register at the clinics around your community. So their target clients are the rich people in Middle East. Maybe they have some privacy issues. They don't want to show off publicly. So this is not really a IT company. Actually, Babylon has huge market value. They are a AI-based technology company. So actually, in the future, I mean, in the hospital, there will be people from other industries to provide better services. So, for example, in Babylon, they have the core services is the AI diagnosis, and also the core services can be supported by Alexas, by Amazon. However, if you have experiences with his, there's a lot of problem with the structured data. Actually, in AWS, we have Health Lake. We can transform, we can change the form of the data, and then we have meaningful identification of the data so that it becomes researchable and applicable. So that's Health Lake.
So how do we achieve this? In the interest of time, I'm going to show you a program flow. So we start with a recognition of images, and we use Amazon recognition to search for text in the medical images so they can come up with a non-theme based recognition. So if you show them an image, there is a tag that says indoor. How do you really recognize that this is an indoor? So we use this recognition to really do this, and we can also scan the images. And the second one is called Amazon Textract, which is capturing all of the PDF images and texts in the PDF file converted into searchable text, and also the medical transcription, which is conducted through Amazon Transcribe. And we can see there is an Amazon Comprehend, which is NLP, and all of those texts that has been transcribed, and we extract the data, the numbers and the emotions are being used for determination, and we store them on Amazon S3. So you can search, you can query. All of those non-structured, unsearchable data can be searched, and then you can use the AWS service. The AWS service here is if you're already an IT person, you want some quicker computing, you want larger storage and better stable web service, then you use the lower part, which will give you the best devices. And the middle layer here is what we call the SageMaker. If you are an AI developer, you just want to do AI algorithm research. You don't want to figure out your platform or Tetra Tech platform. You use SageMaker Studio to achieve this. And the top part would be all of these AI services that have been turned into SaaS service, call on it. For example, the recognition or the transcription and AI voice interaction can all be provided through these SaaS services. And ultimately, you want to turn it into an actual service, an actual product. So we have a more extreme, which would be the call service. We have a service that's called Pinpoint. And Pinpoint converges all of the services that we've talked about. When would you need this? For example, COVID-19, 1922 call line. It's not just in Taiwan. In UK, the National Health Administration also use this service to reduce the time of the employees being used to answer these calls so that their call service can operate 24/7. At the end of this journey, the role that AWS plays is, I talked about the trend, I talked about my customers. What about AWS? It's really a combination of everything we've talked about, just as Mr. Wu talked about earlier on. I think in the future medicine and biotech, you need to give the customers a satisfactory solution experience, so you need to come up with new solutions. But it's about data and it's about AI's machine learning. You are creating the value of these data and use AI and machine learning to further add value to the data. And I think that will become a cycle in itself. If you would like to create service for the future, you need to first figure out the data and then bring in new data to really reinvigorate the data. Ultimately, I would like to thank you for your time, and I've been very honored to be invited today. I have learned so much today because I have already heard from my previous speakers, and I hope there is a link here. Click on it, search for Amazon.com Health, and you will find all of those case studies that I have shared with you. Feel free to contact me. There is my email. We have a team that can help you with introducing the different services to you. Thank you, Mr. Zhu, for your sharing. Next would be our panel discussion. We now invite our moderator and panelists on stage to share with us their insight. And it's about co-creating the future of precision medicine, to see how the different cultures in ICT and medicine can really embrace the same future with the different cultures and languages that they have, and really realize precision medicine in our daily life, and how these IT companies can assist medicine industry in its development. Next, we will give the floor to our moderator and panelists to talk about the future map of precision medicine. First of all, we welcome our moderator, Wang, Chief Writer of Business Next Media, and our panelists. First of all, Chong, Vice President, Wistron Medical Technology Corporation, and Dr. Huang Tai-Yi, CVP and CTO of ASUS, and also I-Rue, Vice Superintendent at National Taiwan University Hospital on stage. We again welcome all of our panelists and moderator on stage. And now I give the floor to our moderator. Thank you very much, all of our guests here today and our panelists on stage. After hearing from our 4 speakers, and some talk about from the perspective of hospitals, some from medicine and technology. Now we're looking at the crossing the fields, and as Mr. Wu has talked about, and also Dr. Huang has talked about, everything has been included. Now, when we talk about smart medicine, it's about COVID-19 accelerating digital transformation, especially in terms of the development of smart medicine. Smart medicine existed well before COVID-19 when it looked at the analysis of virus DNA and development of vaccine. It all requires machine learning and digital transformation, which is why we were able to really apply all of this technology and know-how to come up with new vaccines in 1 year. Of course, the required clinical trial stages cannot be replaced by technology. However, a lot of these digital technology and these smart medicine technology has been applied to the era of COVID-19, and we have seen a lot of lockdowns in countries around the world, which really accelerated the development of telemedicine. Now, from our previous talks, I see that in ICT and in smart medicine, there's been a lot of new cross-field developments. So today we have speakers from ICT, from hospital background, from AI background. What would you say would be the threshold to smart medicine? Because it seems that the integration of these 2 industries seems natural, because we have people in medicine and people in ICT who are meeting in this field. But the requirements for these 2 fields are very different. So in medicine, we really stress security and safety. There are so many regulatory requirements, while ICT needs to be standardized globally and to reach a mass scale. So we know you're old friends, and you know the differences between these 2 industries. So from your personal perspectives, to really facilitate this cross-field future, how would you say we go about it in the future? I would first like to ask Mr. Wu, from the hospital perspective. I think it's always easier to answer first. I know that from our previous talks, we understand that these new technologies, whether it's AI or automation and digital transformation, with low birth rate and aging population, we are facing a shortage in medical staff supply, which is common around the world. So introducing smart medicine to smart medicine is very important to us. People expect a lot from us, but when we are really facilitating this cross-field cooperation, it's rather difficult because if you are going to revolutionize something, it's about the structures. About a decade or two ago, we introduced electronic medical record. Now everything looks very easy, but it was very difficult to turn from written medical record to electronic medical records in the beginning. It's about the mentality, it's about the management and administration. Everything is changing. And also it's about the software and hardware developments. If you don't have a fast enough internet speed, it's very difficult to work electronically. And also to nurture these cross-field talents, you need people who can speak the languages of both industries and to be able to lead the people in both industries and to be able to train people to implement these new technology and to change the whole clinical process. Now, the new Taiwan University Hospital is a university hospital, and we really see the pressure from both ends. So students who are studying medicine at NTU, are they learning telemedicine as well? Yes, you have pointed out this is very importantly. We are promoting cross-field collaboration and everything that we talked about. We need to deepen it, broaden it, and also add speed to it. So the National Taiwan University started 2 years ago, and we provided this cross-field courses between the medical students and the ICT students. So we have ICT students taking some of the medical courses and medical students taking some of the ICT project courses. And this year we have turned this into an official program. So we have students who will be graduating in the future who are ICT students but can't speak the medical jargons and vice versa. And with this cultural clash, these students are coming up with really novel ideas in the courses so that we hope we can really add depth to the talent nurturing in this industry in the future. So cross-field is happening not only in industries but also in classes at schools. And next, I would like to ask Dr. Huang from ASUS. So, of course, you said that you wanted to go into medicine, but instead you went into ICT, and now you're coming up with tools to help these medical staff. According to your past experiences, when you're looking at these cross-field interaction and development, what are the challenges that we need to come across?
Well, like I said, I work in the United States for more than 2 decades. Well, actually, I only work in 2 companies. They were Microsoft and Google. So because I did not like changing companies all the time. So Windows XP, I believe many of you have experienced with the system, and also Android system. Many of you have experienced that as well. But for this smart care is really one of the most difficult, most challenging projects I ever worked in. So it's not really about the level of technology. It's we have to integrate the different domains. So if you only have this strong domain knowledge in computer science, then it's difficult to implement in the hospital because you are lacking the knowledge in the hospital domain. And if you are familiar with the hospital, but you must also have some concepts or ideas in big data or future technology. So maybe the question is, okay, if you're a student and you're very good at IT, why are you working in a hospital? Why not just go to Google or Microsoft, for example? But let me put it this way. We really need these smart people, very smart people, to stay in the hospital or they stay in the medical school. They can attract more people, in their flock. So I think the biggest challenge for me is how to convince this smart young student to stay in the medical field. So like Superintendent Mr. Wu said, a lot of medical school students, they are studying computer science. Or do you see similar things happening around the world? Yes, I've seen that. Yes, I think for medical school students, once they graduate, I mean, their career is about saving people. And in the process of saving people, actually, they need professional knowledge in computer science as well. I don't worry about this medical school student studying computer science because these medical students are really smart. However, if it's the other way around, then the CS students actually, for them, it's really difficult to integrate, to digest all the data in medical field. The same question for Brian. If you look at these two fields, what is the threshold or the challenges integrating the medical fields and IT field? Well, from my past experiences, actually the problems we met actually are now being satisfied. Very often I see culture, corporate culture. That's a problem because in electronics, we want to make money, of course. However, in the medical field, especially in a hospital, they focus more on social responsibility. So that's really different culture. So how do we bridge these different units and also integrate the culture? That's one challenge. And also the domain knowledge, as you mentioned. These are challenging because even it's the same word, but actually if you put it in a different context, they could mean totally different things. Last but not least, also there's compliance issues. In the medical field, they have higher standards of compliance. Also, there's heavier legal responsibilities on the shoulder of the doctors. Whereas in electronics, actually, as long as the component or the hardware themselves pass the verification or is certified, then there's no problem. So that's really different culture. So it takes some time, I believe, to integrate or develop the talent. However, in the past few years, as we have seen a lot of hospitals, they initiated projects for domain knowledge exchange. And also in the electronics industry, we are seeing more and more people, they are learning from the hospitals. So I'm happy and I stay positive to see better results in the future. So another question, what you are doing actually is not just two fields, hospital and ICT. And like you said, you are investing, for example, the Kyogo, you're investing around the world. You're looking into startups around the world. So in the medical field, especially when it comes to healthcare services, and as you mentioned, there's compliance requirements, and you have to meet the standards of local authority, for example, FDA. So the challenges for you may be quadruple or even more when it comes to expanding the market around the world. So how do you fulfill the different requirements in different markets, different countries? Well, from our experiences, we try to exclude the impossibilities. So in electronics, we know, okay, a good product can be sold around the world. But in the medical field, we have to identify our target client, target region. So electronics industry, we are expanding the market, but when it comes to medical field, we have to penetrate, we have to go deeper. So we have to localize. And you have to be very careful with local requirements. Otherwise, you get alarmed or you get caught very easily. And also you have to understand the culture. Culture in the hospital or in the local competitive landscape. And I think the best way is that you have a collaborator, a local partner. Then it will be so much easier to get past the bottlenecks. And on the other hand, there are different perspectives when it comes to hardware and software. And different countries, for example, in the United States, they have software as a medical device. However, in other countries, they do not have such developed concept yet. So there are lots of differences in different cultures around the world. And of course, the control and also legal requirements for different medical appliances may vary around the world. And in Taiwan, if you look at the history of electronic industry, we started with OEM. So a lot of companies, on the one hand, they are supplying as an ODM vendor to other companies. But at the same time, these companies, they look into possible market expansion with their technology. They're expanding their software or connecting software and hardware. And this is something that professional medical appliances company are short of. So as an electronic manufacturer, we can support them and integrate our expertise with them so that we can accelerate their go-to-market process. And it's like Amazon, for example, AWS has started with server and services, but now they quickly expand to other fields. My next question is to Dr. Huang from ASUS. I looked into your presentation. I was impressed by the examples in Taiyi and Zhongshan Hospital. And the experiences cover end-to-end process from outpatient check to the prescription. It's a complete solution. However, if you look at the hospitals, I mean, the digitization level actually vary. Some big hospitals, they are digitized. However, for some local clinic, they are still manually key in all the data, and they are manually managing the data. So when it comes to cloud services, and people are used to, for example, from Google, for example, they are used to having a solution and then selling this solution around the world. However, in the hospital, in the medical field, maybe there are a lot of things. It couldn't be standardized, and you see bigger differences. So how do you overcome the gap? This is a good question, and this is a big challenge. It's no-code or low-code customization. The thing is, if you have good codes and good IT infrastructure, then actually the customization, you only have to configure. You don't have to rewrite your code. So this is a spirit. Now we are working in HIS. The design of the IT infrastructure, it should be able to accommodate to big parties in big hospital and also local clinics. So it's feasible, but it's a difficult CS problem. For example, the CRM force. Okay, they use the same code base to accommodate different needs with configuration. So it's feasible, but there are some challenges. So no code. This is a new trend in the industry. So I heard that by 2025, 2/3, meaning 65% of the programs, will be written by people not from CS fields. For example, in the United States, in 2020, actually 1.4 million of jobs. They are looking for candidates with computer science backgrounds. So it's more than 1.4 million vacancies in this field. So maybe in Taiwan, what do you think if we train the doctors or maybe the nurses or professional staff in the hospital, we should train them in coding, for example. They can write something. They can complete the task with really simple Excel format. Yes, it's a good trend, but the prerequisite is that we need a platform by a company. And the programmers with really simple entry-level training, they can complete the task. When I returned from the United States and joined ASUS, I saw that a lot of software engineers, they are bringing innovation to different industries. So in the beginning, these software engineers, they were in PC, but then they expanded to Uber, to other industries, online e-commerce, etc. So all this industrial transformation came from the software engineers. So when I returned to Taiwan, I mean, we don't want to lag behind. So when it comes to CS problem, we need to tackle the really difficult issues. And then when it's difficult enough, then we have the solution. Then we can win the profit. We can reach the barrier, cross the barrier, and we can have abundant profit to pay the good engineers. So if we can have these hospitals migrated to proper IT solution, then the problems be solved, and then we can duplicate the successful references around the community. So yes, indeed, in computer science, maybe in the past we had open platform, we can open API. A lot of developers join the field. And now when it comes to application of medical care, in the future, we are seeing new startups. They are trying to create a platform for non-professionals. For example, the nurses and doctors in a doctor, they can utilize these simple tools at a platform and develop the things they need. The next question is for Vice Superintendent Mr. Lai. So as we see in the field of smart medicine, actually in the past, IBM, they had Watson, and yet it wasn't a successful solution because it felt like they are replacing a doctor. So maybe that was an issue, in the beginning of setup. Have you seen any successful references? For example, Microsoft acquired Nuance. There's a company on voice detection. So, for example, they want to compile the written patient history. In the past, we heard that sometimes the doctors have to send over tapes all the way to India, and then they completed transcription. But now, actually, the doctor, they can read through, and then they can have the software transcribing everything the doctor says and save a lot of time. So now, in the medical fields, if you look at the different level of application, actually smart medicine is a big field. And National Taiwan University Hospital, I think it's not just a hospital. Actually, it's also a place where doctors are trained, and you have different various roles and social responsibility, etc. So how do you define yourself in the future? Yeah, thank you for this question.
Yes, the National Taiwan University Hospital is like other medical institutes in Taiwan. We see opportunities as well as challenges. As our other speakers have mentioned and moderator mentioned, in this wave of challenges, whether it's in delivering the services or in teaching, we face a lot of different reforms. Now, the changes in the education I have talked about, and in terms of research at National Taiwan University, we have a database. We have collected over patient records over 125 years, and we call it our own HIS system. It's the NHI system is about the financial aspects, and our system is not just about the financial data. It's about the imaging, the health checks, and all the other patient data. So it's easier to be applied. And in terms of service delivery, I really admire what Mr. Chong and Dr. Huang have talked about. In terms of service delivery, we have provided we have come up with a lot of different examples. For example, in the past, the patient alert system. We now have a lot of automated alert systems in the wards. So, for example, if I'm at home and I have an alert system in the ICU, I don't necessarily need to be at the ICU to solve the problems. I can solve the problem from home. And, for example, we have, working with our hospital, a project has been implemented using the imaging service to analyze some of the blood cell problems or retina changes. And I'm sure a lot of these services have been introduced to a lot of medical facilities, and it will just be more prevalent in the future. So at our hospital, we are backed by a university, so we have university nurturing the talents for us. And we also have, because we are a hospital with history, so we have a large amount of data over years. to be applied. But we still require more data, so we're working with 11 other medical centers to come up with these programs that can be introduced and verified in other medical centers so that the project can be better facilitated in the future. Because sometimes the models can work in one center but not necessarily work in another medical center, or it cannot work across borders. So forming an alliance to fight a group battle is probably easier. And my next question is for all three of you. In terms of smart medicine development in Taiwan, it's picking up in Taiwan and around the world in pace as well. And people look at it from the aspect of scale and economy, but it's oversimplified according to some. So according to you three, do you think smart medicine development can be the next IT industry in Taiwan, like semiconductor? Because smart medicine include, for example, patient service registration in the hospital, or the facilities, the devices, the test kits that they use. All of these data can be collected and be applied, and AI, machine learning, be applied to the data. It's a whole big industry on its own. So we are looking at all the emerging and the existing new technology and companies. So if it could be the next IT industry for Taiwan, we need all the elements ready for this to happen, right? So I would like to know what you think about this. I'm very optimistic, and I think it could be it. Because first of all, we have all the optimal elements in Taiwan. We have very good national health insurance system in Taiwan, which is ranking top in the world. But it could be both a curse and a blessing, because we have very good computer science talents in Taiwan, but not enough fields for them to develop in. But for example, in China, in the United States, people look at smart medicine, and you see in these other countries, you have these people going into Google, Amazon, Tesla, and all of these other companies. They have all these choices. And in the US, you have Epic, Cerner, and they are less competitive. So we have very good engineers in Taiwan. If they don't leave Taiwan, we can have very good engineers in Taiwan working with really good, top-notch doctors in Taiwan to build the next smart medicine industry. Now, when we talk about big data, we need a very big population. So a lot of people worry about the fact that Taiwan has a smaller population, so we won't have big data, we only have small data. What do you think about this? I think we do have enough medical data in Taiwan, but they're scattered. We need to be efficient and effective in collecting them and applying them. And also, I think that because medicine develops comparatively slower to other industry, even if we have Google with the best engineers, a lot of projects won't work because the developments are too slow in the medical industry. For example, the regulatory systems and the hospital systems are just very difficult to solve. But, for example, when we are looking at the ICT applied to e-commerce and auto drive and all of that, they can make as much money without having to learn medicine. So, because we don't have a very good software industry in Taiwan, we can employ these engineers to work in smart medicine. So you're talking about the format of this data, right? It's another problem on its own. Yes. What about Mr. Chong? What do you think about this? I agree with what Dr. Huang has talked about, because we are both from electronics going into medicine, and that is a very serious issue we're facing. And also, in addition to data being scattered in different medical systems or facilities, how to how to collect them, integrate them, and apply them will have to go through regulatory processes as well. So even though we have a data system there, it's not integrated and compiled to really fill its needs. And also, when we look at the United States, the best well-developed countries are startup countries. It's actually difficult for these legacy companies to really develop rapidly in these fields because they're comparatively conservative, and you mostly see startups shining in these industries. We've seen a lot of startup companies in Taiwan who come up with projects that no one are willing to invest in. But if they go abroad, you have these foreign investments that are willing to invest in these projects, so they will leave Taiwan, and I think that's a pity. Now, I need to reword my question for Mr. Wu because you talked about how medicine in Taiwan is more of a welfare instead of a profiting industry. So when we look at the ICT industry in Taiwan and the services developed, 95% are exported. So if we look at everything that's been accumulated in Taiwan, including the teaching experiences or medical experiences, can these experiences be exported as well? Now, I would like to quote something that I know because what Dr. Huang has mentioned about in Korea, there is a hospital in Korea that sold his system to a Middle East country for $200 million. So I think we have an opportunity in exporting our know-how and skills abroad for profit. But as my two other speakers have talked about, there are a lot of problems we're facing in Taiwan. In the medical industry, in the past, we were taught to treat patients. But we need to think about business model as well. You need to treat more than one patient because if you have an idea and you can implement this idea, you could probably help more than 10,000 patients all at once. So I think for students in medical schools right now, after they finish schools, they don't go into hospitals, but they use their know-how and their interest or apply their knowledge to their interest in either ICT or other industries. And I think that's a very good development as well. So I am very optimistic about this future, but I would like to share two ideas with you to caution. And in caution, first of all, we need to look at the outcome. Ultimately, we need to see if it really improves the outcome of patients. If you can really help the patients, that's the most important. And also, we want better development in industries around Taiwan. But if the resources are not properly applied, then you will come up with results, but the results won't be able to scale. So if you come up with projects, the projects needs to be able to be verified across systems and institutions. Now, you said that you have medical students who are not going into hospitals, but going into ICT. Yes, we have, for example, we have a startup that's working on imaging systems. That's started by a medical student. So I think in the future, we will see more and more cooperation and collaborations between these different fields. With the few minutes we have left, I would like to ask Dr. Huang, if we're going to export smart medicine, if we're going to export it, what do you think about this? I think it's very promising because Taiwan is an advanced country. We have top-notch ICT students, for example, Cobalt, Visual Chain, 4Chain, and Visuals. They all have talents from Taiwan, and even Japan in Korea and Southeastern Asian countries, they probably won't have better systems than we have. So it's the right time for us to really export ourselves. In the future, to develop smart medicine, you do need a group of really good engineers to develop further. So I do see value for Taiwan in this aspect. Now, Mr. Chong, you're not just working in Taiwan, you're investing around the world as well. So in the future, you are going to combine resources globally and export this elsewhere. And I think the best thing about Taiwan is we have a very high accessibility for medicine. So to find a doctor or hospital willing to work with you is comparatively easier. So if we look at Taiwan as the hub for R&D and verification, then you export these experiences out elsewhere. Is very promising, but how do you help these projects be implemented and localized in different places? That is another issue. So I think we need to also think about what we can do to facilitate the implementation of these projects elsewhere while we are developing these new products. Because if you are only thinking about making this work in Taiwan and not considering bringing it elsewhere, then it might not work. So I would like to thank our speakers for sharing with us their insights on the future of precision medicine and co-creating such future. We see a lot of opportunities, but also challenges that we need to overcome. And I think the best thing about Taiwan is that in the past, we are very well developed in hardware. Even though we are less comparative in software development, we are having more and more people, talents who like Dr. Huang, who are coming back to Taiwan to invest in Taiwan. So in the past, medical industry is not being looked at as a for-profit industry. But in the future, it will change and it will attract more people from other industries to work together in smart medicine. And we'll see more opportunities in the future. With a round of applause, we would like to thank our 3 speakers for sharing with us their insights. Thank you, our moderator and our panelists, for sharing with us. With another round of applause, we would like to thank our speakers and moderators for everything they have shared with us today. This marks the end of our forum today. I would like to thank you again for participating in the 2021 International Smart Medical Forum Crossfield Facilitation, Re-Evolution of Smart Healthcare. Do scan the QR code on our screen and to fill out our questionnaire. We have 2 more sessions tomorrow, in the morning and in the session. In the morning tomorrow, we will be inviting our speakers from 3M and Supermicro and Deep O1, and in the afternoon, we invite startups and venture capitalists to share with us their insights. Feel free to register for our 2 sessions tomorrow. Thank you very much for your participation today. Hope to see you again tomorrow. Bye.